Okay, this is going to be a test for doing a voiceover on the correct type of sound adjustment for the critical depth videos to see how my voice will sound over the augmented audio. The KGB say Americans discovered powerful energy pods for new atomic weapon. We must capture any energy pods and create super weapon to destroy West before they launch attack. A new Soviet Union will dominate the world. And there is the Stalingrad, a massive heavy hitter, nothing fancy about it. Slow and very hard to turn and maneuver. Message from the Stalingrad to Red Hand. We read your report regarding energy pods. Your work pleases us. At last, an energy source sufficient to power our Crimson Hammer thermonuclear device is found. Once operational, the hammer will give us power we need to go before the UN and demand unconditional surrender. But first things first. Already capitalists are descending upon Baja Gulf like vultures upon carrion. We, the Severe Three, will take our secret submarine, the Stalingrad, and see that enemy forces are subdued and pods are collected. Giving myself extra time. We instruct you, faithful members of the Red Hand, to awaken our friends from their preparatory slumber. Open the caches of FAT's weapons and distribute them to our loyalists. Alert those who we have placed in secret positions of power within Russian Confederation to await our call. Do this and then listen for our next instructions. The time is now. Our patience is about to bear fruit. That's my old school Russian. By the way, I learned it from fighting moose and flying squirrel. The Baja Gulf, latitude 110 west, and yeah. And let it load up. So, as usual, you'll see here how the Stalingrad operates. That is its super, and jump out of the water there. The super works kind of strangely. Whenever you have a enemy sub targeted and you activate the super, the Stalingrad is going to turbo and track it until one of two things happens. Either a certain amount of time expires or it rams the enemy sub. It can also be stopped by ramming into the ground or an object if the sub happens to maneuver around one. The other problem with the Stalingrad special weapon, once you let it go, you surrender control of the sub to it. So if somebody places, like say, a mine or something like that in your way, or decides to just turn around and retreat and start firing a bunch of stuff at you, you have no choice but to hope you don't barrel right into it. Yeah, you are dedicated to the path that the Stalingrad takes you on. But otherwise, yeah, this is one of the heavy hitters. Captain Cutlass right there would be the other one. The Stalingrad has nothing fancy about it. It is pure brute strength with a lot of armor to back it up. As a result, though, it is one of the slowest subs, and it is one of the most awkward to try to maneuver. This thing, most other subs can turn on a dime. This can barely turn on a mint. So you really have to plan ahead what you're doing, and there are going to be a lot of times with the Stalingrad where your best bet is to hang around the threshold and play defense. Because you sure as hell can't outrace anybody to it. And there's an example of running into the mine with the ram going. So you want to try to use that as close as possible, and that's what happens if somebody else gets through the threshold before you do. And a perfect example of how the Stalingrad will never outrun anybody else. Yeah, and by the way, if that happens, it's game over. You are not going to be able to continue from that point unless you had used a save on a memory. No, even actually, if you used a save on a memory card, you still can't do that. All that does is keep track of who you've beaten the game with. This is from Stalingrad, alright, and we fucked up. We try again. Okay. Okay, so now that we've had the failure montage taken care of, going back into the Baja Gulf here. And one thing I want to correct myself about the super for the Soviets. You do have a little bit of agency as to where you go while the turbo ram is engaged. You can attempt to steer up, down, left, or right, or in the diagonals. But the thing is, the ram will always prioritize heading towards the enemy, and it tries to take the shortest route possible. So you can attempt to steer your way out of obstacles, but then as soon as you let go of the controls, it's going to immediately direct you right back towards them if there happen to be obstacles in between you and the sub you're targeting. Really, the best use of the ram is something like that, even though I missed, when the enemy sub is fairly close to you. If they can hear you a mile away, and even though it does give you a little bit of lock-on for your torpedoes, sorta, kinda, the further away from the enemy you use it, the more likely they are to just completely avoid it. And there I am using the pilot missile to crest the water. Yay, it's a dolphin, I skimmed the top of that fairly nicely. Yeah, you'll notice something as I come back to these. A lot of the times I didn't remember most of the things that I did, so I'm hoping I can see them again as I watch them back. Also, still having some camera issues. It's just as well, because this way everything matches up as far as camera, no camera, swiping, no swiping. Very appropriate ending here as we have communism versus capitalism. But fear not, Mordred Corp will get their revenge fairly soon. And this time around I gave up on playing nice fairly early on in the for the sake of expedience. And I was entering codes here, I believe. Yeah, pretty sure I was entering codes. But anyway. As we head to the threshold here. I also apologize if I won't have a whole lot to say on these more recent episodes, these ones following, because I front-loaded a lot of the story on the Dr. A and Professor episodes, but hopefully some things will come up. And I'm nose-kissing a shark here. And how the hell did it survive that? There's sushi now. Delicious. I wonder if sushi goes with borscht. Message from the Stalingrad to Red Hand. All goes well. We have collected the first of the pods and are now proceeding to the Red Sea. The capitalists suspect nothing. Indeed, we have noted that many of them feed upon one another in a frantic frenzy, such is the chaos of their imperialism. Little do they know that their competition among themselves only makes our job easier. The Stalingrad stands as a solid testament to our eventual supremacy. It shrugs our torpedoes as little more than stinging insects. We desire that the planet is ripe for the return of communism. This means that the folly of capitalism must be brought into bright relief. Prepare to execute plan Invoke Chaos. Contact our sympathizers in Moscow, Baghdad, and Seattle. You know what to do. Obey our orders and await further instructions. I don't remember when Starbucks opened their first store in Seattle, but this would explain a hell of a lot. But then again, it wouldn't, because Starbucks is pure capitalism. Red Sea. I mentioned what those latitude and longitude numbers were before. I calculated them out in the first few videos. I don't remember what they are right now. Please, by all means, go back and look at my other videos and it'll tell you. So just a quick explanation too. I mentioned before that I was going to divide up the videos among, the most important things and highlights and such. I've since decided not to do that. I'm just going to go in with live commentary straight through, and the videos will probably be about 30 to 40 minutes apart. I think that's just probably easier on me in the end, because I took so long trying to get these finally up and done, and if I give myself too much more to do, I'm just going to talk myself out of doing them again. So I'm just going to shut up until everybody's done with the various noises. Is that anything like Make-A-Wish? And these levels go so much faster when you can just spam the reflector like that. And just send everybody's everything back into them. Having said that, I don't know why I'm bothering with the super so much. You know, I could just, well, yeah, there you go. One of Joe's Psycho Discs. It does pretty good damage and knock back at him when he has no armor to speak of to manage it. But anyway, yeah, I figured just to make things easier on myself, I was just going to go ahead and show everything. Excessive amounts of editing and this series were not a good combination, I found. And on top of that, I never know when someone is seeing one of these for the first time, so hey, you know, why unnecessarily cut stuff? Though to get the full effect, I definitely recommend starting from the beginning. Okay, voice time. Message from the Stalingrad to Red Hand. The battle intensifies. Operatives from the subversive arm of the United States mobocracy are also making a desperate grab for the pods themselves. While we do not expect the full brunt of the U.S. military forces to impede us in our efforts, the situation may require that we must unveil our full might, inform our operatives within new KGB to stand ready. The Red Hand will not be stayed. The Stalingrad remains stalwart even under extreme fire. We pay our respects to the original designers. It is unfortunate they were discovered to be Yankee sympathizers and had to be summarily executed. With a dozen such submarines, our supremacy would be assured. Okay, so they do have an issue with the CIA. I wasn't sure who they had a cagey beef with. You are to proceed with Operation Invoke Chaos. Begin by encouraging our loyalist in Seattle to release his new computer operating system, the pandemonium that ensures while the capitalists stumble over themselves to upgrade their machines will buy us additional time. Obey and await. That loyalist in Seattle, of course, Steve Jobs. Well, it would explain what happened with Apple after he passed, wouldn't it? And Pacific Rim, still my favorite area. Yeah, I'm intentionally trying to read this as closely as possible, and use the broken English, but I end up accidentally putting the words in. So my broken English somehow ends up more offensive because I'm not breaking it up enough. So this is one of the areas that the Soviets have a really hard time with, because trying to track anybody with the turbo RAM is ridiculous with all of the large objects in the way. It is very easy to run smack into a building while you are trying to chase somebody down. The higher up the Soviet sub is, the better it's going to be at that. But overall, yeah, this is a terrible ground for the Soviets. The one advantage they have, because there's so much open area, you have a lot of nooks and crannies for the other subs to hide, but when you do get into a large open sea battle, the fact that the Soviet sub has so much armor absolutely helps with survivability. As usual, the best thing for the Soviets to do is get into the thick of things. Don't necessarily rely on the turbo RAM, but a regular RAM, since it does dislodge pods, can help. And the best place for the Soviets to stay is at the center of the city, right near where the threshold is, because that has the most open area to work with. So, of course, here I am stumbling around the entrance to the subway. I have no idea why. I'm doing things that are completely against the advice I just gave, tactically. Maybe it's because I'm currently using invincibility and spamming the reflector bubble. So I'm like, hey, I don't need to follow my own advice. So not much else to talk about there, and we're in route. Message from the Stalingrad to Red Hat. We are en route to the waters off of tiny island of Bermuda. Inform the KGB operatives aboard our nuclear submarine to rendezvous with us there. We will not stand for the continued interference of the capitalists. Once the submarine arrives, we will dock with it and assume control. Once aboard, these other petty and insignificant bourgeoisie will no longer trouble us. Good plan. I'm glad I gave myself ample time here, too. In the next step of Operation Invoke Chaos, we order you to have our operatives in Hollywood produce an incredibly expensive feature film that has neither a shred of a plot nor any characters, nor story to speak of. The capitalists will invariably divert their attentions to this spectacle rather than note the things of genuine import. Obey and await. And now you know how Michael Bay got his career started. And like I said, I pre-recorded this, and what I did was I talked the whole thing out, and then I added about a minute. So, you know, in the interest of full perestroika, disclosure, that's how I handled that. Now, Bermuda, you don't really have a whole lot to worry about with the Soviets, since you have a lot of open area to work with on the turbo ram. Probably your biggest issue is if somebody gets too far away from you. Blowing up the mine there for gets and shiggles. If somebody gets too far away from you and gets to the threshold before you do. Now, they mentioned that nuclear sub. Yeah, there it is. That's the sub from before, the one that can go down into the pits and reveal all the power-ups. Dumbasses ran it aground. So, if you were wondering about the red star on it before, now you know. As I mentioned before, one of the problems with Bermuda, this is the second map where critical depth is a factor, and the threshold actually exists just slightly below it. But the thing is, turbo won't get you around as quickly with the Soviet sub, so yeah, so be yourself. With the Soviet sub, as it will with others, you can still get into the threshold quickly enough, and you absolutely do not want to do what I had just done there and try to turbo ram somebody into that ditch. If you miss, you will keep going and just doom yourself. Ditch, trench, whatever it is. The point is, don't do it. You may be tempted to try to vary the usual plan of get a couple of pods and then wait everybody else out by going far away from where the threshold is. But the danger in that, if something happens and they're able to get the pods away from you, most everybody else is going to be able to get a path going back to the threshold faster than you'll be able to catch up to them. So you're still better served by trying to cut them off from it. Nice little gliding there by Mordred Court, and then it just starts ramming the Russian sub for no good reason. Well, I take it back. There is a good reason, because bumping into another sub can dislodge pods from them. But A, not when they have a shield up. And B, they're going to do as much damage to them, more so than to you, with that attack. And so now we have the dive into the threshold. Pretty sure that a little bit doesn't hurt. Incoming message. I will stand for your interference no longer. I am the mighty arms dealer known as Mr. Fat. The energy pods you are carrying play a key role in my conquest of the world. Only I have the knowledge and the means to use them to their full potential. I will not permit you to continue in your vain and petty quest any longer. I have used my superior technology to block your progress through the threshold. I will now destroy you with my glorious submarine, the Kronos, and retrieve the pods from your pitiful wreckage. Prepare to meet your doom. I keep calling it the Kronos and the Kronos. alternately, I think it would be the Chronos. Also, I think I mentioned it before. The Your Doom made me think of Frisky Dingo on the postcards. Y-O-U-R-E Doom. I was just kind of fucking around here, and I wanted to see if the turbo ram would be enough to destroy the shelf and send the thing off, and I'm pretty sure it did. At least I think it did. It looked like it was leaning before it exploded, so I think Fat helped that for me. Now, something very bizarre happens here, because as you can see, Fat doesn't give a shit about anything I do, and it will come straight at me because Fat's sub is more or less a carbon copy of the Chronos with, instead of the Turbo Ram, with regular ordnance, and this happened. So yeah, now I'm looking out at a battle happening on a camera view as though this was the attract mode of the game before things are actually being played. I had no idea how the hell that happened. I'm guessing it was just something very wonky with the way the camera worked when I got bumped up against the edge of the playfield. But thankfully, Mr. Fat was nice enough to correct that for me. And we were able to continue on with things. As you can see there, the Chronos and the Stalingrad are almost mirror images of each other, a couple of aesthetic differences besides the color. And of course, Mr. Fat has the longer range weaponry. And jumped the water there, that was interesting. That rarely happens with Fat, because usually nobody's powerful enough to survive a bump from him. Or at least able to get up to the surface. And Bermuda always looks really bleak, but then again, it's the frickin' Bermuda Triangle. And honestly, given the fact that, you know, I know Fat has a lot of armor, but I'm also, you know, I have a strong super, so I wasn't expecting this battle to go on as long as it did. Then again, I don't know really if much of any damage was being done in that fog glitch, because it was actually so long ago, I don't even remember if I was able to fire at him or anything like that. But yeah, there you go. Message from the Stalingrad Red Hand. Idiots! The new KGB drove our prize submarine right into imperialist mind and sent it to the bottom of ocean. Kinda. We have authorized the immediate execution of everyone on board. We want salvage teams sent to recover the bodies from wreckage so that execution can be decisive and immediate. It appears that the same Mr. Fat who sold us our weapons is, in truth, great capitalist Sebastian Titan. He attempted to thwart us in our quest by attacking us with sub whose very size matched his own girth. Perhaps he recognized that there will be no place for the likes of him in our future Soviet empire. In any case, his menace has been dealt with. I like the idea of executing someone who's already dead, you know. That sends a clear message. It is odd to note your report that Operation Invoke Chaos seems to be having very little effect upon affairs of capitalists. By now we expected the system to be in ruins, but somehow it seems barely affected. It is no matter. Continue with the plan. Persuade our high-level executives that their athletes who excel at such frivolous things as putting a rubber ball through a metal hoop or hitting a leather ball with a large stick should be overpaid. Grossly overpaid. Encourage our loyalists that these athletes receive monies that far exceeds that of average capitalist worker, perhaps even 100 or 1,000 times as much. Certainly this sort of inequity will bring about chaos among populace that we desire. Obey our orders and await further instructions. Yeah, I've said that kind of stuff for years. thinks to the extent of someone with a helmet defending our country should earn more than someone with a helmet defending a football. But, what are you going to do? Venganza. I don't remember for sure if they comment on anything related to this being Sebastian Titan's oil rig, but we'll find out together, won't we? So, the strategy in Venganza, more or less the same as in Bermuda. As long as you can largely stay out of the trenches and away from the oil rig itself, you should have plenty of room to work with and make the turbo ram effective. But the nice thing about Venganza, it's a very large map. So what you want to do is basically leave everybody else to their own devices as much as possible and defend the threshold. Again, this is out of necessity because the Stalingrad will not be able to win a race to get to the threshold in time. But also, if you have everybody else softened up, with the kind of damage the Stalingrad can do, it can be very easy to finish them off when you need to. And by the way, I didn't say it before, notice you can pump the regular forward torpedoes as you are using the super. I don't believe you can use any of the other special weapons while the super is active. Unless you have a direct trajectory, however, most of those torpedoes are going to miss because the other subs are going to try to use evasive action. I think it is possible to turbo ram one of those patroller drones around the oil rig, so you just have to be careful as you would with any of the other subs when you lock on to anything around the rig. I'm pretty sure you can ram the drones, because if you can ram the sharks, the system works the same basic way. As far as Venganza goes, this is another area with critical depth, so again, be careful. I still love those, that you hear comes from Captain Cutlass. That's when his pirate ship fires the 2 cannonballs. But with the way he makes that yell, it almost sounds like he's passing them like kidney stones. I really hope my audio levels are right. I tested it earlier with battle going on, and I think I got it correct, but the good thing is, because I'm recording it this way, I can always boost up my mic audio if need be. I just apologize if anybody wearing headphones is wrecked by this. But we've got the pods, and we're about to head through, so I will see you in part 2. Thank you very much for joining me, and join me in part 2 where we tear down this wall until we game again. This episode's Jack-Off Smirnoffs were made possible by Mike Panza, Rick in Baltimore, D.I.O.T., Gizmo Gremlin, Jumpy Cat, the post-production work of Matthew Carr Anderson, and all my perfectly executed lycanthro fans. Thank you very much for your continued support. Until we game again.